Hello and welcome to episode 166 of the Imperial Truth. I'm Greg. Joining me, as usual, is Mr. Howard. Hello, Howard.
Hello, Greg. How are you doing? After all your travels, globe-trotting, as you
I
have
feel
been.
a lot more relaxed than I did about a month and a half ago, which is
Yes,
good.
understandable. Now it's all
There's been many
chilled out.
issues. If anyone wants to send me any free money to help me pay for some of those issues, as I chase travel companies who are wildly known for being very honourable, I'm sure, and insurance companies for when that travel company doesn't then pay up, that would be lovely. But yeah, it's
Have you been referring to it as the Great Crusade?
I should have done, really. It's been
Just done the entire trip. I'm sure your
we set
family
out
would
a
have really
grand
enjoyed
plan.
it being entirely on theme.
We set out a grand plan, and various people tried to screw us over massively. So
Yeah, great.
it's pretty much the Great Crusade. But we're back after trips to America and Australia, and many trials and tribulations along the way. But hey, could have been worse.
But made it, and linked up with people along the way, which I'm sure
Linked
we'll
up with
come to.
people. Felt extremely rough for about the first 5 days. Finally back, but apart from the throat being a little bit sore at the moment, and a gland being up, feeling a lot better, starting to feel human and slightly more relaxed than I was, I say, for about 3 or 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. So, hey,
Ready for the next round of hobby excitements.
Oh yeah, but I'm not having to worry about traveling halfway across the world with a 13-month-old. So
Halfway across the country. That's just a breeze now by comparison.
Yeah, for sure. There are other things to worry about, but slightly less dramatic. So, Hey, how are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good actually. Work is a pain, but I'm now looking. All of my hobby stuff is now in one room. I'll take that as opposed to being distributed around the house, such as the life with trying to play this. Remember those old games where you have to slide things around, or maybe even a Rubik's Cube style arrangement we've had in the house of trying to clear one room so we can get that ready and then move everything back into that room so that the next room is done. All of that's going on. So my hobby is still not really going anywhere, but I am now all in one place, which is pretty good.
Let me stop you there before we get into any of that, because we will talk about some of that. If you would like to support the show, you can purchase any of your toys from Element Games, the wonderful Element Games. What have we got coming out? We've got an Adeptus Titanicus book coming out. And
surprise book that was.
This show will come out once that's available. There's nothing new in it. We got sent a review PDF copy. I say there's nothing new in it. There are some adaptations, small changes, but it basically
some adjustments to Crusade Army List, isn't it?
Yeah, some small bits here and there. I haven't had GW said they were going to send me the book, and then it didn't happen. Basically, the script left me off of it. So rather than having all the 2 weeks of traveling to Australia by myself and back from Australia by myself, so 23 hours of travel time where I could be reading it or making notes, unfortunately it left me off the script. So I had like 3 days whilst feeling rough with a baby and working, so I've only had a scan for it. So but essentially it's bringing together all the rest of the books, so you only have to buy, like, essentially if you want to get into Titanicus now, you can buy the Traitor, the Loyalist, and this, and that's all the books,
and a rule
pretty
book.
much. So, and a rule book, yeah, obviously. So that's good for that, and there are some slight alterations on some of the lists, which look to be positive from a skim over, but I haven't done a deep dive yet because I haven't had the time, so I'll have to wait till it's purchasable and get my copy sent to me, probably from Element Games. So
plastic things continue to filter through to the market, get back into stock and stuff.
Indeed,
which is nice to have. Jet bikes still being pretty highly sought after, I understand.
Well, this is we talked about GW's production issues. They just can't make the stuff quick enough at the moment, as we saw with the Lion and his mates and everything else.
Ooh, yes, a tasty release that was. The Lion, of course, potentially useful.
Yeah, if you do want anything from GW in plastic, go visit our friends at Element Games. Use the link in the show notes, and we get a kickback. Helps sort of pay for our hosting costs, website costs, all that kind of stuff, which does add up, unfortunately. But hey, could be worse. So yeah, wonderful sponsors of the show, and doing great things as well. If you want artist opus brushes, you got the signature range. Like all the guys I was at Adepticon with are all sponsored by Artist Opus. They're all like, oh yeah, gonna go and see the guys and get my bits and pieces and what have you. Paint ranges coming out your ears. They're available from them. All the toys, all the board games. There's so much stuff. So yeah, thank you to Element Games for their support. But yeah, you're talking about getting your room sorted. I've come back and I've got stuff to do, but I've got a real hankering to get hobbying, and yet this room and a few other things, I've got stuff to organise for events and things like that. I think this weekend I might have a morning without the baby around where I can actually try and get a little bit set up in here.
Mm-hmm.
To try
I think that clearing a space and defending it and having it as a little project space. I've got a couple of Titans still on the desk upstairs, which I can't actually reach at the moment. But those are recoveries that I'm going to turn into. I think having a little project like that just allows you to use that kind of energy when it comes up, because it does. And when it does, you really want to capitalize on it when your time is short.
Yeah. One thing about my job now means I can sometimes get home for lunch, or I can slightly detour and stop at home for my lunch. So on a day where I don't have an event pack to write or emails to send about something else, or 100 million jobs that I've got listed in a book somewhere to get done, I can pop home, and if I've got space and those models on my desk, I could get half an hour hobby in. Or once Emma gets back into her routine of working early in the morning before work, doing a bit at home, then in the evenings, if she's gone to bed a little bit early, I might be able to find that half hour there. But that involves having a desk that's organised, clear, and everything around it all set up. So that's a priority for me, because the good intentions get lost otherwise.
Yeah, I know a couple of friends, friend of the show, Mike, particularly. He's always an advocate of just put in that half an hour. Just if you can just carve out that half an hour, like even every day if you can. But I mean, it's amazing how that adds up. You don't have to think, well, the only way I can do hobby is if I've got 5 hours free or something, a complete afternoon or a complete day. You can just grab little bits of time, do a little bit of painting, do a little bit of this, and it just feels really good. You feel like you get somewhere. But for that, you kind of need the setup of the space, or just a little corner somewhere where you can do it. So that's what I'm going to try and carve that out in the coming days. That said, with all the different things in the hobby calendar coming up, we've got Salutes coming up, and we've got Fest coming up. That could be a while before I even get to that little side of things.
Well, yeah, and this is the problem, isn't it? Like, like the grass desperately needs cutting. Like, finally getting to a point where I might be able to cut the grass. So yeah, that's an hour or so taken up doing that, and then there's the other little jobs, and then, as I say, I've got like insurance companies to email. I've got 100 million other things to sort out. So the key to being able to make the most of those half hours is to be able to have that space. And I've got a dedicated area. It's ended up being piled up again. But we'll work on that, I'm sure, and get some hobby done, particularly some Heresy hobby. And also, I've got just like there's too many different projects to get done, but trying to prioritize a little bit as well.
Have you got some Heresy ones in particular that are on the your radar?
I've got thousands of points of Space Wars that need painting.
Have you got some that are particularly in your focus right now?
Just infantry, just to get properly started.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm changing how I was doing my Space Wars. I didn't get very far through on it. So I want to actually just get 10 models done in a scheme that I actually like, which I find really hard to pick one. I think I'm going to there's elements of the Cult of Paint Space Wars Heresy scheme that I really like. So I think it'll be an adapted version of that, because also I can just bug Henry if I'm like, I'll change this and do this.
Does this work?
Yeah. So we'll see. I even bought a booth with an air traction unit to go out
I
the
have one of
window.
those. I bought one of those at a salute back in the day, a few years back, and it's a good idea in theory. The only problem is, I find airbrushing, particularly in a family home, can be quite a noisy thing with the compressor going.
Yeah, my compressor's not too bad on
Well,
carpet.
mine isn't in theory, but still, it seems that the sound seems to travel. You turn on those things, the extractor hose. Yeah, it's an already noisy thing, even noisier. That's the
Yeah,
only downside of them, but they are good for you.
Maybe I need to do that when baby's not in the house.
I wonder.
But we'll see.
Well, either that or
It's
it's white
there.
noise, but it is good for you. There's no getting away from it.
Yeah, the only issue I've got is then I share this space with the missus when she's doing her work in the morning, sits behind me. So, it's only fair. It's not fair to then start airbrushing in there.
Yeah, she comes in and it's smelling of paint fumes. That's not.
Yeah, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah,
acrylic
we'll
or
see.
otherwise.
Say lots of trial and error to get that out. I've got just little bits like this desk is big. I've basically got a small kitchen table as a desk. It is small, but ended up with things like the routers on this desk because of the nature of how our plugs work, and the Wi-Fi mesh, extender mesh, is also on there, as well as a few other bits. So I actually need to get I've got a bit of wood now, a shelf that I need to then attach onto that to extend that, to get that crap off the desk, to extend my space that I can hobby with, and try and make that work with where I've got the light. And it's just, nothing's as straightforward, is it?
Yeah, no, it's sure no. But you're one of the lucky few who've got a games room being constructed.
Yeah, which is totally not ready to play games in because it's still not organised. I've still got loads of stuff to sell and sort out. So that's also another.
But it's coming.
Yeah, it's there. I need to get some boards and I need to get some. You know how some stuff's so hard to stack and organise. I've got board games out there. There's a lot of stuff in that garage, and I need to sort out the remaining stuff and sell a lot of stuff. And then I can finally get that Zone Mortalis table out.
You've got to. I'm itching to see that set up.
So anyway, so I haven't done any hobby per se. Did get a bit of hobby from Adepticon. So when I planned the Adepticon trip, I was like, right, what do I want to do at Adepticon? I want to meet people and talk to people. And one of the main things actually I learned from this Adepticon is I need to be a little bit more organised if and when I go again, which probably won't be next year. But the Sunday, I had a very relaxed Sunday, which is quite good because it meant I was fairly chilled out and not overtired when I got back, bearing in mind I only had 5 days before I was then flying to Australia. But it did feel like, what have I done on the Sunday? So next time I go out, I need to be booking in time slots to see people. I need to be very direct in saying, you guys, Saturday 6 till 10 we'll be in the bar, make sure let's meet up, that kind of thing. But gaming wise, I wanted to do the Space Hulk that they do there every year, which I got, which is extremely hard to get into because there's 6 places per game, and they've reduced the amount of games they do now as well because they were knackered running 3 games a day, because it's quite involved.
Yeah, 3 is specifically something of that scale. Yeah.
Yeah, and then aside from that, I was like, cool, I'll get into something that I enjoy. That's fine. So I might as well go for the VIG Gamer, the Very Important Gamer set, because last year I made my ticket back in a bit more, selling the stuff off. Last time I went, should I say, not last year. So I got that again, and as I got in there, like the year I went before, there was a big pile of stuff. It was like people were walking past, peeking around these boxes with stuff they had. This time, there was people were given a box to put the stuff in, and that box was then sat on a kill team box, and there was a bag, and there were some other bits all attached, and it was not liked, and I was like, this is ridiculous. The one thing is, some of the companies, like, everyone received the same stuff, like the same Robotech robot was given, or starter set was given to everyone. You couldn't sell it for love nor money because it was the one they were giving away last year as well. Like, it obviously hasn't sold, you know. So that's fine. But there was some like Marvel Crisis Protocol bits in there, and some Legion. I've got a Boba Fett for Legion. But yeah, you got a whole kill team Into the Dark. I can't remember which one it was now. Got a whole kill team box, which I thought was going to put me overweight on my luggage.
I was going to say that that is not a small thing.
No, so I took it out of the box, put the books in my hand luggage, and put the plastic and cardboard into the. I would have been all right. I could have just kept it on in the box in the luggage, but hey, these things happen. So I've got a whole kill team thing to paint.
Cool.
I've got what else did I get from there? A few other bits and pieces. I sold a few off, so I've got some more hobby collected.
Just what everybody needs. Well, then I say this, about to go to a couple of events. It's going to be the same.
Well, I mean,
these are things I haven't had before.
I did spend some time at they have a bits seller there, like sells old models and stuff. It's just got trays like with like Eldar written on it, or High Elves or whatever. And for a while, I did start going through some of those, looking for bits for the old world. And then I was just like, you know what? Why am I doing this? Like, they'll release it in plastic, and if they don't, you can 3D print it. Like, if nothing's available, I'm not bothering. I'm not cooling stuff home. Because I did once, I had a Plutonium project where I was basing them on high elf models, and like one Adepticon, I brought home 5 of the Griffin Riders high elf from the starter set. Was it Island of Blood? I bought home 5 of them to use as or 6 of them to use as Pegasus riders, and never got around to it, and ended up. I think I chucked a couple because they had slight damage. People are buying them now. But yeah, I was just like, you know what? I've got enough stuff at home. Like, if I need to buy something, I'll buy it later.
There'll be another way. Yeah,
exactly. It's not worth saving the £2 now.
Yeah, international travel makes that a bit of a challenge.
It's a bit awkward. But yeah, Adepticon was cool. Hung out for a bit with the Heresy guys. Yeah, obviously I played a bit of Age of Sigmar. I played a bit of Blood Bolt. Didn't play any Heresy, but I hang out in there for a bit. It's good to see.
The Space Hulk sounded like it was a lot of fun.
JP, the Space Hulk is amazing. If anyone goes to Adepticon and hasn't played the Space Hulk game, the first thing you want to do next year is get into that Space Hulk game. So these guys have been doing it for years. It's a couple of brothers. I think it's their mate as well, and then one of the sons. One of the brothers has got a son who now helps, and they've written their own rules for different chapters, Space Hulks, and then they Terminators, and then they've got a Inquisitorial team as well, and a Death Watch team, and they've written. The Inquisitorial team's slightly different because it's power armored people in there and stuff, and they've got a Psyker and things like that, and they've written new rules for Maguses and stuff like that as well. And the whole point of this is you've got 12 turns to destroy the center part of this to stop this beacon happening. And the regular Terminator teams, their first goal is to destroy some of the supply power points to it, and for each one you destroy, you can get an extra turn in the game. Basically, I think maybe it's 10 turns you start with, and then to destroy the main bit to win the game. So like the Inquisitorial and the Death Watch like are trying to get straight in, and then the others are trying to do this bits and pieces. And on our team, the Blood Angels guy faced some fierce resistance. The Dark Angels made some swift progress. I can't remember the other one, and I was using Black Templars, and I had a sergeant, but I also had a leader kind of character who had he had a sword and a shield, and he was like a sword and a shield. I'm trying to remember now. Blimey, it feels so long. So much has happened, but essentially, like he could handle himself in combat, and I was like, okay, let's be ballsy. It's Space Hulk. You've got to, with a time limit, you've got to be a bit ballsy. So I'll split my dudes up, and I was like, okay, I'm actually rolling decent dice. This doesn't normally happen in Space Hulk. Normally you have that one turn where something goes bad and you start to lose people. I was like, okay, I've churned through these bits and I've stopped you spawning here and there, and then got into the first objective bit and I kind of cleared house, and the heavy flamer was just like, okay, cool, turn around, flame that doorway to protect my back, walk off. It was all, this is going and I got through the first bit. I was flying, like really flying. I was like, this is amazing. And everyone else was like, oh yeah, cool, we're catching up. And then it kept going, and I was just like, my leader guy was just running into stuff. I think I lost my sergeant to combat like straight away, and it was like, oh really? But my leader just walked into stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, my G-Steers rolled a 6. I'm like, parry that, my friend. Oh, I rolled a 6 anyway, don't worry about it. Like, it was just, and I ran through the whole thing and pretty much completed the game by myself.
Amazing. That's such a cool feeling, particularly was it something you were so looking forward to.
Yeah, and we got to the end and it literally was like, you do your bits outside and then we'll do those bits inside, and like got to the point where I was like, okay, the quickest way to win this game is for me to go up against the Patriarch mano a mano in combat. One turn, dead. Screw you, you're off. And I was just like every step of the way, I was just like rip. But yeah, the guys put in so much work, and they were, they know what they're doing as well. They played this game a lot of times over a number of years. Like, they don't want to make it too hard. The idea is to make the game winnable.
Yeah,
right?
It's to be definitely achievable, but not.
But I saw games where like you look at someone, Space Hulk, 1 or 2 bad rolls, and all of a sudden you're up the creek without a paddle, and that's never going to change. That's the way the game works. Like, once you lose 1 or 2 dudes, the Steelers can really pounce on you. I did point out that the only way it could be better if they had a Space Wolf Terminator unit, which they don't. So
I'm surprised they didn't have the big 4. I'm surprised it wasn't Dark Angels, Blood Angels. Where's the Ultramarines?
They've got a guy back home who plays Space Wolves. He just hasn't painted them a group to go with it. But they've done really well to make all the different, because there were more than that as well. Right? If I hadn't taken Black Templars, I could have taken like Flesh Terrors, something like that.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, there were like 6 or something different regular ones. The Inquisitorial one and the Death Watch one were always the same. They were 2 available, but the other ones you literally picked up one of 6 or 7, I think it was, that you could play as. So yeah,
that's cool. You do get to pick.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So if you played it again next year, you could be someone different.
But the board looked amazing.
Yeah, phenomenal board. Like I say, these guys have been doing this for a number of years now. They've absolutely nailed down what they're doing. They've kind of little upgrades on it, I think, here and there. But one of those real event games that you can only find in a place like Adepticon, really. Like, I don't think there's anywhere in the UK that would really do that. Like, it's quite funny. People in the US always talk about Salute. They're like, oh yeah, you have Salute. And it's like, no, Salute's a sales show. For all that people big it up, right? People come from Europe to sell their models.
It's really good, and I think this one in particular is going to be good. But as you say, it's primarily, particularly in years up to now, it's a sales show. I think they're doing some things this year. No, I have played games there, but
it
feels secondary.
Big 100% secondary, and and you've got a few clubs that host games, but all the other games are then designed to sell you the game they're playing. It's a trade show. It's pretty much what it is. But
I think this year is going to be slightly different. In the 50th year, there's some plans, but it's not Adepticon. It's not something with tournaments and stuff like that. Well, that's the only way it would be something even remotely similar.
So Adepticon was great. Got to meet, dipped in and out of the Heresy room, seeing all the guys there. Seemed to be having a lot of fun. Zach and I can't remember the names of the other people who were involved. Seemed to be doing a lot of work running the events. Seemed to keep everyone happy in there as much as they possibly could. And then Golden Demon, and I was over there with Neil. We went over on the plane together, and of course once over with Neil and Andy Wardle hang out together. James Tarrow, who's I met him for the first time out there. Everyone uses his pins, knew of him but never met him. He's a good guy. But it's quite funny how
loved his War Master. So good.
Yes.
His statue winning Metallica War Master, I believe, looks superb.
Yeah,
love a Titan.
And it's quite funny because it doesn't matter where those guys are; they're always the same. They're always just bitching about other people's paint jobs or what they think is where. And I walked up and Carha had painted a Votan vehicle that was being attacked by a tentacle with an eye in the middle of it.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, love that model. And literally, Andy and Neil were like, oh, everyone says that. Why do they say that? I'm like, because it looks good. It's not going to win anything, but it looks good. And they're like, oh, don't get it, because they're focusing on competition painting. I'm like, it just looks good. Like, they're like, where's the light source coming from? It doesn't matter. It just looks good.
Anyone who knows the technical parts of
it,
they can't see past it. Yeah.
Not in their kind of makeup to be able to understand why anyone would like that when it's in a painting competition. To the point where I then am watching other people walk around going, oh, I like that, and I'm like, oh, that's going to win, and I'm like, no, that's not got a chance, because these guys have gone through and just disseminated it, not in a nasty way, but they're looking for the competition.
Yeah,
and they're right.
If you're moving in between those kinds of shows, you're going to know, aren't you?
Because that's all they do. That's all they do is like literally midnight. Oh, we'll go and have another look, see if anything new's been entered.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's quite interesting watching them, and then of course got to the end and seen the videos. It's a bit strange having it all quiet when the winner walks up to grab the sword. It's a bit OTT. Don't think it needs to be done. But Neil won with the model that was. If anyone hasn't watched the Cardinal Paint episode about it, go and watch that, because it's
really good coverage. Yeah.
What Neil failed to tell anyone on that episode was the only reason he decided to go to Adepticon was because I messaged him and said, I'm buying my plane ticket, are you going? And he went,
I did hear that you were the reason. He did mention that a friend persuaded him. That has come up.
He said, oh yeah, go on then. Right, so the only reason he even went was because of me. And he didn't mention me on the show, did he? No.
He didn't name drop you. He just said a friend.
Sword is essentially half mine. Because he wouldn't have won it. He wouldn't have won. And they have a discussion there about the quality of American shows versus UK shows, and maybe the dissemination of painters amongst other competitions and all that, and why Golden Demon UK might be a tougher show to win. David Soper's not in America is the classic. Richard Gray wasn't there. Like, there's another person who's got a very good chance of winning. For all that there were very good painters there, would Neil's model win if it was up next week? Maybe it would, but maybe it would have stiffer competition. And that's a fair kind of question to ask. There is no right or wrong answer on that, because I doubt he's allowed to enter it again because it won something. So, but yeah, so we could effectively say the show's got two Slayer swords now, as far as I'm concerned.
Claim it.
Yeah,
I think it's arguably entirely down to you.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I think there's an argument for that, a strong one, which I fully support.
Too right. I hope he listens to this. He probably won't. But yeah, bless him. So yeah, to put up with my story.
It's a superb model, and it was it's such a good job, and I'm really looking. I'd like to see it in person. I hope I get to see it sometime in there. But hearing that talk, as you say,
it'll be
Cult
at
of Fame, and hearing
Warhammer
that,
World
sounds
soon.
amazing.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Displayed. I wouldn't be surprised. Or you could put them an offer to buy it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I'll be in the running for that with the Slayer sword title that it now commands. Well, friend, yes, the person who won, good friend of mine, Dan, who won the Eidolon that he did, was also very excited that he owns a piece that is now by Slayer Sword, 2-time Slayer Sword winner. Neil had painted.
So Neil works for a computer games company. I don't know if he's mentioned this, but
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, he works for a computer games company, and almost everyone there on their lunch break is doing some form of nerd hobby, which for a lot of people is 40k, and a lot of people is other stuff. And they now are like, well, we have a 2-time Slayer Sword winner who works for us.
I love that could become a thing. That becomes something that people as an employer is like, yeah. Yes,
amongst
please.
nerds, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, Adepticon was great. Tiring and long.
Icing on the cake. That, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've said I'm not going to go next year. I'd hope to get out there at some point again soon, but
the Heresy. There was a Heresy. There was a preview, wasn't there? And there was the preview was the
we had the Cathonia
Siege book. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get onto that in a bit, I think.
Part of the news.
Well, yeah, we'll do that when we move on. Yeah, we got Salute. So you're going to be at Salute, wandering around.
Yes, I will be there.
There's not going to be much Heresy stuff there, is there? So,
no, it's not a significant thing. It's much more. It's not really a Games Workshop thing. No. It's everything else.
Warhammer Fest happening a week after.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's going to be very little. It'll be nothing from. It's just nothing. Certainly nothing from GW. There will be obviously Element of there. I'm going to go and see them. There's lots of. I just like going around seeing almost like the state of the industry outside of the GW.
Yeah, I think that's what with Salute I'm always intrigued by, because I'm trying to remember the last time I purchased anything when I went to Salute. It's a while ago.
I have a tendency to pick up things just because it's an event. I quite enjoy it. I enjoy the buzz of the event. I mean, the number of people that are going to be there at a big scale thing like that. It almost feels like this sort of celebration of it somehow, and you just get to see some cool things. But you also get to see a lot of people selling stuff all in one place that you just wouldn't ever get anywhere else at any of the other shows. Certainly not in the UK.
The biggest saving grace for me has been the few times I have been looking at purchasing stuff there. It's turned out to be metal stuff, and I've been able to go, no, I'm not buying metal stuff. I think some of the Pratchett miniatures, Gilball when it started, I was saved from that fiasco by it being metal. But yeah, it's an interesting thing, and as much as anything, it's an excuse to meet up with a lot of different friends.
Exactly.
It does attract a lot of people. So a GW social bus used to run down there. Don't know if they still do that or not. But yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, looking forward to that. I think it's the 50th anniversary, so it's a big event. This time they're running. They're running panels. Yeah, definitely. I really want to go to those. I don't know what the process is. I think you just turn up, presumably.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ticketed, or if it is, I haven't seen it. But they've got Duncan's there.
Warhammer Girl.
Louise Sugden. Warhammer Girl.
Yeah. there as well. Cool. So some cool people.
Quite a few terrain specialists.
Right.
That are going to do that. They're doing a terrain building panel as the first one.
That might interest me more about. So when I go to, my thought process with Salute is it's an hour and 40-minute drive, way too much on parking, but hey, I'm going to spend a day walking around, seeing some mates, going to the pub with some mates, and seeing people that I see once or twice a year. But if Salute can offer a little bit more beyond that, and walk past all the really fit people who are queuing up to log in for the London Marathon. Oh no, it will be on London Marathon Day.
My favourite by far was when they ran it. There's been 2 events where they run it along at different times. I think it was all to do with COVID disruptions, and they ran it alongside Doctor Who, which was great. You should say the best one. The most common one is always the London Marathon registration weekend, which for some reason loads of people turn up in their running gear for. And you're like, I wonder who's going to Salute and who's going to registration for this. People in Lycra eating their
but this year it's actually on London Marathon Day, so travel's going to be worse. Is it? I think London Marathon's the same
yes
day.
and no. Because there's better transport now. I mean, for example, for me and Grant going over from here, whereas before it was a good hour and a half, fairly complicated journey across. Now Elizabeth Line, it's 40 minutes. No trouble at all. So there's going to be better links to and from.
A lot more people in the city.
In the city, yes. It'll just be if you're having to change centrally.
Yeah, you're right. It was always you walk past and there'd be some nerds going to Doctor Who. There was another convention on last time.
Star Trek.
Star Trek. That's right. Yeah.
Star Trek was a brilliant one to mix. I was super tempted to go in. I'm like, I can do both. Only one.
I saw a lot of people.
I really want to do both. And I saw afterwards. I didn't go in, but I saw a walkthrough on YouTube, and it just didn't look as good. And I'm a big Star Trek fan. I like my Star Trek for sure.
Cheap. Even the Doctor Who one didn't look that great.
No, because it's that type of convention is a very different thing. It's one of those ones where you're paying a fortune to have something signed or whatever.
It looked to be like, you can have a Star Trek convention like an American one, but without any of the actors or any of the real props or any of the glam. And what made me feel better walking through as a Warhammer player is you got to look at people and just go, freaking nerd.
I did enjoy going in the pub that's just outside Excel. The one that's popped up here. Yeah, the Fox. And looking around, I'm like, have I suffered a head injury? Am I hallucinating? Am I in Starfleet Academy? Like so many people in Star Trek uniforms, and then separate nerd groups. You're like, this is awesome. I'm a big fan of this.
And then walking past all the pharmacists at their convention, their sales convention, in their suits and stuff. But it's all good. Right, let's take a break there and come back and let's talk about what's been going on in the Heresy world. Okay, so you may have noticed a break there where we don't normally have a break. I was going to talk about this at the start of the show, but we are looking to change the show up a little bit, have it more segmented, which will do 2 things. Allow us to pull segments out and edit and re-record as needed, but will also allow quicker editing because sometimes finding the time to edit an hour and a half in one go is not possible. Whereas being able to edit half hour in one go will be slightly easier.
I also think, when we were talking about suggesting this, I think structure like that, one, it will help us get into those things, but it also, I think, helps people jump to what they want to listen to.
Yeah.
And you can jump around and you'll be like, okay, I already want to listen to that bit. That bit doesn't interest me so much. Maybe I'll come back to that later. Maybe I won't. But you can allow people to read you that.
Providing we get all the right bits in the right segment and don't start talking start of the show stuff in the second part like we are now.
That's a good idea.
And providing we don't, the fact that we don't tangent off too much, which of course will never happen.
We're really good at staying on topic, aren't we?
Absolutely.
And definitely not rambling on into other things.
We're always going to be a bit freeform. It's the Imperial Truth.
It's an idea. It's a scaffold.
But it's
going to evolve, but I think it's a laudable aim.
we're playing with stuff like that, and obviously we will forget stuff. I'll probably have to put stuff in at the end of the show to make up for bits that we missed, which there's already one.
So it helps
So,
incentivize people to listen to all the sections.
indeed. So for all that, we can go back and look at. Should we look at Chthoniya? The fate of where we are. The Siege of Chthoniya. What did you think?
I'm quite looking forward to it. I like the fact that it also gives us an idea of what direction they're going to take with it. I mean, there was predictions, there was ideas that it might follow in that route, but it's quite nice to see and how it confirmed that that's how we might see the development of the game going forward. I'd have put my
mortgage. I'd have been putting my mortgage on it being along this line.
It was
likely.
Right. It's nice to see it though, and nice to see it start to materialize.
So this is
in that form, and I think that looks quite cool.
Well, what it also does is it differentiates. So this is Campaigns of the Age of Darkness, the Siege of Chthoniya. So they can release books that aren't campaign books as part of this. So this is, this is one of the aspects that we're going to get new information, rules, what have you, mission types, play types, anything like that. One of the ways they're going to do this is through the Campaigns of the Age of Darkness series. Siege of Chthoniya being the first one. So Siege of Chthoniya, we first really knew about in the Chthoniya, what was it called? The novel Chthoniya Rising? Chthoniya Reckoning of Chthoniya? I can't think. It wasn't a great book.
It came out because it was suggested that it was going to be the theme of the Age of Darkness launch box set. Chthoniya's Reckoning.
Chthoniya's Reckoning. I just got that myself.
And that went alongside, that came out alongside the Age of Darkness launch, which was in the box set, etc. And that was something that hadn't really been touched on before. It was a series of short stories, wasn't it, collected together. I thoroughly enjoyed it, actually. Some of those stories particularly stood out for me that were very, very good.
There were some good ideas. I didn't necessarily find any of them to be great.
Enjoyable, I thought. It was an enjoyable thing, but it just didn't have the gravitas of some of the others, and it didn't give you a great deal of knowledge on the event itself, whereas this will.
No. Yeah, I wonder if there was an original release schedule that had these close together.
I wonder if there was some grander thing that would have tied it together, but still, for whatever reason, I think that's come out that way. It's interesting. It's suggesting that there's a couple of them. I'm seeing increased references to things like the Siege of Baal, which I wouldn't have been aware of before. Was reading something again today, and that came up, and it was that's interesting. That's those sorts of things are starting to. I've started reading a contemporary 40k book, and that's mentioned as a reference back to the Heresy. And I think, okay, there's going to be those kinds of campaigns that we haven't heard anything about before that they can put a focus on.
So what was interesting through the video and through the article on Warcom is they make reference back to the Black Books. They make reference to all kinds of players. Like they're showing us something new, but trying to tell us that it's following a lineage that's always been there. I was sat with someone who's they've tried to make it very clear that everyone should be getting this book and be interested by it. So it's for new players, it's for old players, and it's not just for Sons of Horus and Imperial Fist players. There is stuff in here for you, and it seemed to make a definite effort to make that statement. Because there are a lot of dissenting voices in Heresy. There's a lot of, not quite whining, sometimes there's whining, but a little bit of kind of kickback when things are released that have specific legions focused upon. But here we got we got Chthoniya is consumed by a rolling war. So we got Veren Ashradan, master of the true Sons of Chthoniya. who is an Imperial Fist dude.
Or perhaps a Son of Horus.
Oh, sorry, Son of Horus. And under siege by the Imperial Fists. Farron Ashuridan, master of the true Sons of Cathonia, vows to retake his home before Horus claims terror with the aid of the word bearers. Yeah, that's really badly written there. Standing between the first Reaver and the Victory is a garrison Imperial Fist led by Lord Castellan Evander Gallius. Yes. Of course, that's.
I think you're right. I think that article's messed that up because I think it's under siege. It's under siege by the Sons of Horus. I don't think it's under siege by Imperial Fists.
No,
I think Imperial Fists hold it.
Yeah, and that's why I carried on.
Fair enough. Yeah,
I read what's put on the autocue. So
I'm going to start putting question marks in.
Indeed. So yes. So we've got. Oh yeah, we got the battles that are going to say. If you want to read up a little bit, you can read Chthonia's Reckoning. So we've got campaign system. Recreates the war with rules for customizing your forces beyond the usual detachment limits within campaign system stratagems. Character casualties, battle achievements, and more. So cool. We're getting maybe a new campaign system, maybe a mix. 2 sets of missions, 5 new core missions, which have been eagerly anticipated, with more objective-based games for match play and 2 narrative Apex missions. And then we're getting probably the most exciting bit: full Zone Mortalis rules, including 5 missions and dedicated campaign rules. And then we're getting extra Imperial Fist and Sons of Horus rules for characters and weapons that starred in the siege, and stuff for any legion like the Tucuran tank commanders and the unstable Inducti. So the Inducti are newer legionaries.
Legionaries that have been kind of rushed through. Yeah,
exactly, which have been used by every legion to try and maintain numbers to a point. So, yeah, a focus on those 2 legions, the poster boys of the Heresy, fair enough, can understand that. But stuff in there for everyone in the tank commanders, and we know from the article where they talk about the tank commanders. Where was that?
That was the 6th of April.
Yeah. So we've got the 2 models specifically for the Fists and the Sons of Horus, which are cool. Yeah, and they represent.
I was really not expecting those when they did that.
Neither was I.
I don't think many people were. I mean, why would you? But to see them come out and do them in that way, I was really quite surprised. I think they're quite cool characters.
Yeah. No, they are. I think there's the way they've done them means that it will be easy to find something you don't like on them because there's just stuff on them.
They're very busy.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not a bad thing.
No.
But if there's something you don't like on them, like there's a good chance. There's more of a chance. But hey, you could still use these and like that. The Imperial Fist guy, you could take a knife to a decent amount of that stuff fairly easy. You should be able to get access to take the Imperial Fist stuff off if you want to use him for a legion that's not them.
Yes, I mean the Son of Horus guy.
The banner is something.
The banner is difficult. I suppose the coins that are a lot of sort of medals and coins on the chains, that could actually be a number of the traitor.
Ways, can you?
Number of traitor different things could be fine, but it is only really the banner, isn't it? And that is a bit of a pig.
But that's cool.
Particularly as it has the 16th on. But I like the concept, certainly. I think that's quite cool. Just didn't expect them to come out in that form. They are named characters, I think, aren't they?
Well, yeah, so we've got any legion. So the Decurion is a type of what do we call them?
So is it a console?
Console, that's the word. So you've got the Locus and the Defensors, which are named that any legion can take a Locus or a Defensor.
Yes.
So the Defensor has the point defense advanced reaction, which whenever you take a point defense reaction, the reacting unit may make a shooting attack with any defensive weapons that are not turret mounted and any pintle mounted. with all the normal rules except all pintle-mounted weapons may make twice the number of attacks. Blah 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 blah. So cool. There might be a good use for those. That's fine. But then you've also got the Decurion Lanius for the Sons of Horus and the Sagittar for the Imperial Fists, who are so they're Legion specific.
See, okay, so they're not named characters, but there's particular variety.
Although they might be named characters within the in the book as well. There could be. So the latter comes with an assault cannon and an augury scanner. And when their vehicle makes shooting attack, they can choose to fire. So the Imperial Fist one comes with an augury scanner and a assault cannon. And when they're shooting attack, they can choose to fire one defensive or pintle weapon at a separate target with the added benefit of skyfire or precision shots 5+. So if you want to put a pintle-mounted multi-melter on a big tank, you can be precision shotting multi-melter shots at a 5+. It's not bad. Or even just with an assault cannon into the right target. And then the Sagittar, that's not bad at all. So what this suggests is we're going to get, in future books, we're going to get a similar thing where a console or a unit type is put out, but then there's a specific version for the legions that appear in those books, which I think is a good way to do it, to allow all the legions to keep getting stuff. Because the fundamental problem with Black Books was, even if you played Sons of Horus, say, right, Sons of Horus came out, book 1, cool. Book 2, you got some more stuff. Book 3, you got some more stuff because all legions did. Book 4, you didn't get much stuff. Book 5, didn't get much stuff. Book 6, you didn't get much stuff. Play the White Scars thing, you don't get any Legion stuff until you get your book. But at least this way you're getting a little bit of something every time there's a release. So I think that's a cool idea.
That's a clear, conscious decision. The books don't look as, and I think this is a positive, positive, it's just how it is. The book's not as lavish. I mean, it says it's following in the same vein, but it's nowhere near as lavish as the Black Book's mold. And I think that's a good thing because it's not taking a year and a half between each one. Yeah,
it looks a decent size.
It does.
Stars on the picture. I mean, you got to think they're putting in their campaign rules. So the background for I suspect the background will be much reduced from what the Black Books had, but still, there's plenty of room in there for a decent background. Campaign rules, extra rules for what they've told us we're getting with tank commanders. There might be other stuff in there as well. There might be new units in there. We don't know. The missions themselves, like the core missions, the whole Zone Mortalis rule set as well, and some missions. It looks to be a pretty useful book. I know a lot of people were disappointed that that's the only thing we had released or revealed at Adepticon. In my opinion, it didn't matter. There was nothing else done. If there hadn't been this, I'd have been disappointed because it's been a long time since we've had progression on that front in terms of and in campaign books or whatever it was. We had no idea what was coming. So this allows us now to see at least one aspect of how they're going to proceed going forwards.
There have been suggestions I've seen, or rumours, based on, I think it's images in the video that they had of this, that there's these two names, there's the two commanders that are in this, that are mentioned in this book. There might be some models for them. There might be conversions, so they might not be things, but that might be something we're going to see coming in the future. We have got a reveal coming up. There's a preview of Heresy at Fest. As this gets closer, there might be tie-ins to that. There's also been that mention of because Heresy Thursday has now come to an end, which I'm sure we'll come to as we go through the items.
No, it's come to it's been paused.
Sorry, yes, it's been brought to a temporary end.
Yeah.
It's been paused, but there was mention in one of the more recent ones of that plastic infantry is on the way.
Yep.
Very exciting. But that's
absolutely.
Who knows what's going to be up next? But I agree.
In
terms of the books, I think this is good to see that this is the direction it's going to go.
We've had nothing about this now for basically a month. So it looks like we're on the tail end of the 3-month reveal window for the book. Fair enough, is what it is. It's not a problem. Yeah, they'll need to start showing some more stuff coming. But at the end of the day, we're on the 40k 10th edition release release method till that comes out, and everything will stop for 10th edition, or slow down for 10th edition, because why would they not? It's their cash cow.
Absolutely, and it's a signature release, 10th edition as well, particularly the milestone of itself. That's likely to come out in about June, I'm guessing.
Late June. Late June is normally the time. Yeah.
I mean, someone pointed out that this was a brilliant way of looking at something. There is a
stamp.
Yeah, the stamp collection. I thought it was hilarious. In the UK, here in the UK, for those who are abroad, we have our postal system has themed stamp collections, and they've become more and more popular. Particularly enjoyed the Transformers one not that long ago. But they'll take specific themes and run them. And this year, there's a whole bunch of different themes at different times that vary wildly in what they're based
Iron
on.
Maiden.
And there is a Warhammer theme. Yeah, exactly. There's a Warhammer theme one. I think it's June the 8th.
Yeah.
Might be June 28th. I can't remember.
At the end of the day, they always release their editions around that time.
Yeah.
So you didn't need stamps to tell you that.
Well, no, but you could tell it was going to be in the summer, but there was something significant about the stamps suggesting it might be then.
Very early July. I think they might have pushed 1-2. Like they've had a 2-week. There'll be a 2-week pre-order window, I'm sure. Late June, early July at push. 3-year cycle for 40k and Age of Sigmar. Like you can almost bet your house on that now. It's just accept it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and stamps as well if you want stamps. You're gonna get Americans asking us to collect stamps for them.
This is not, as you say, they're not going to have other releases, particularly not something like this where there's a reasonable amount of overlap between Heresy and 40k in terms of models. So it's not going to challenge. They're not going to raise anything that will challenge it.
April, May, June. Yeah, so this book will come out in a month or so, I think.
Yeah.
There's not going to be much released around the 40k window. That 2-week period will be 40k, and that's about it. But that's cool. It's fine.
So that was a preview, and the preview coming up, and then we've had.
I suppose we should also mention about the preview in new Indomitus armor, Terminator armor.
Good point.
Which wasn't shown for Heresy, but it was shown for 40k.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see them in the flesh, which we'll be able to do at Fest, I believe, and to truly see the size of them, see how they work, because I don't think they'll be too bad.
I have seen people mocking them up against Tartarus and Cataphracti.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And
they have smashed it, both those. I haven't heard a single negative viewpoint.
I have an army that might need 2 units of them to make work. So I can definitely see me getting some and utilising them for sure for Heresy and 40k. So much excitement, much wailing and gnashing of teeth. It was like 1,000, million nerds cried out at once when they told us that we're not getting new plastic super heavies or Arquiters or other things.
I was the only thing I was surprised about there, because I would have been surprised, frankly, if it was any particularly Arquiter. The super heavies would have been cool, and the fact they were going off sale, maybe. But the one that genuinely surprised me, I really thought they'd do the Javelin in plastic. I'm surprised they've done none of the rest. I thought it's just the rest of them are too niche and too big and too significant. I mean, they could do, but I just wouldn't have thought there'd be the demand for it. But I would have thought the Javelin, was going to come, because I thought there would be plenty of people who would want that, and it was the right sort of size, right sort of kit. So I was slightly surprised to see that continue on in resin, but obviously now blessed with plastic sponsons.
Yeah, I don't know. The Javelin's frustrating, Because if it was plastic, I'd go out and buy a few.
Yeah, exactly. I'd happily have a squadron of 3. Resin, not even sure.
Yeah, it's at the moment with the money going out on all the bills we got, it's a bit hard to justify going out and buying 2 or 3 of them in one go. I think I'm not that surprised that they've done it this way. This means that you've got lots of options for the sponsors. It makes it so much easier to do. Mastodons aren't going to sell in huge amounts, even if they're in plastic. I mean, you'd sell some, undoubtedly, but
yes, but I just don't think you'd see the Mastodon. Yeah, Fellblade, because you could reuse that hull so heavily. I could have sort of seen that.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's such an enormous kit. I know they've made the Baneblade, and the Baneblade's been around for ages. But
the problem is, you have to look at Games Workshop at the moment and their production capabilities they've got. They sold out of the Lion and all his stuff on Saturday in no time at all.
And they would have prepared for that as well.
That's not them holding back stock, fear of missing out. That's rubbish. They would rather sell you, everything on that first day. Boom, get it out. Yeah. They have limited, even though they've expanded their production capability hugely, they still have limited capability to keep up with demand, and they've shown repeatedly now for a year or so that the demand is outstripping their ability to
particularly their ability to predict it about 2 years in advance.
Yeah,
maybe a year, maybe a year. But that's the time they're having to make these predictions, and you think, well, okay,
there's some chat about how well Age of Darkness is doing, and apparently it's doing super well. And I've seen some really interesting takes, shall we say, about like GWs. Like, did they know this? Did they know that? Are we getting this because of that? GW knew Age of Darkness would sell. They knew they had to get, but they know they have to get it in plastic to sell, and they have to get other people to play it, like from outside the Heresy community and all that kind of stuff. But essentially, they've still got limited time on those plastic machines. Like, each machine can only run certain amount of hours a day. Once you take into account, you average it out, like the time they need to be down for maintenance and what have you, changing the molds, all that stuff. They can only produce X amount of stuff. That's just a physical capability of the machine. So, are they looking at more machines? I'd be amazed if they're not. Do they have to find more space to put those machines in? Don't know. I don't know we don't know what the facilities are like there, particularly in the new part of the factory. But yeah, you only have to look at 40k and Age of Sigmar to see that there are items that are just in demand all the time.
Yeah, and it's not just the production of this. It is a logistical. Logistics is a huge part of that business, as recent things have shown. That, I mean, they're trying to shift to a new warehouse. They're trying to modernise. There's another thing.
Oh yeah, warehousing issues as well. Yeah,
the warehousing issues have proved challenging. Where, I mean, certainly a lot of stores got hammered where they couldn't get new stock and similar, and they'd already made promises to customers and other things, and GW having to say, no, blame us. This was our mess up. That must hurt.
Yeah, didn't handle all that well, did they?
Scaling this stuff. It could have been better.
It could have been better. But yeah, they've essentially outsourced their warehousing to a private company.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah. So the robot pickers and all that, that's a third company.
I see.
And been hearing some lovely stories, interesting stories, which is quite funny, about all that. Ask me in the car up to Manchester next week, and we can chat. And it's not stories that are going to be put on air, but yeah.
I think people are generally aware, though, who they can see if they're going from things from their local stores or otherwise. They've probably heard the gnashing of teeth to a greater or lesser extent with that.
Yeah,
so there's a large part of this is it's not simply manufacturing. Otherwise, there's things they've got to make decisions on. about how many
all
of these
these
can we
things,
distribute around the world, etc.
there's always snags with trying out a new system. Those were, there are always worse snags when it's employing another company to do it, like, because they don't appreciate it. Or like things like how Dante got sent out before he was available. I mean, Games Workshop are lucky that more than that one dude didn't order Dante, because I mean, I'm amazed anyone ordered Dante at that point.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
but you've got people working in a warehouse who don't work for GW. They might not give a two hoots. They might not even have heard of Warhammer. They're just told to this rack of toys goes in there so the robots can pick those toys. Like that's literally how it works now, isn't it? It's how all these picking places work. So if you've got a product and it goes in the wrong place, and then because it's in that place it gets put on a shelf, like it's really easy for something to get put in.
This product's called the same as the other one. Yeah, quite.
Exactly. Yeah. So so for all that stuff, if there's no way GW would want to sell out of the Lion and leave. I don't know how many people. You only have to look at like people spending 300 odd quid to get a 50 quid box, whatever it was,
which is going to come out, where the model is going to come out,
which
in
is ludicrous
no time,
because it's going to come out in a month. Exactly,
yeah.
Like you're an idiot. But that's 300 quid out of that person's spare cash.
There was also it's the trickiness. I mean, I saw someone putting up a point across where they went to their local store. The local store was having its birthday, so there was a queue of people outside, all of which who were quite incentivized to have it as like a celebration. We're doing this as like almost like a mini event. They were all ready to spend X number of dollars. I think it was in the US. And then their opportunity, they're thinking, well, this is a momentous thing. This is a cool model. I want to pre-order that, and I'm going to upsell this because it wasn't available. By the time they opened the store, it wasn't available anymore. That was something like 6, 7, or 8, or even more people who were planning to spend $400 or something that just didn't. They just didn't spend it. They went away, and well, maybe they'll pick up the model later, but they've lost all those upsale opportunities, which these people were already incentivized to do. That's not something a company's going to choose to do.
But also, someone spends 300 quid online on a 50 quid model. That's 300 quid they're not spending at your store.
Yeah.
Right? Because the chances are they would. And some of this is local gaming shops, won't call them friendly ones, taking the opportunity to make a bit more money and getting their selling it on a private email account. Of course it is.
Yeah.
And you sort of don't blame them in a way, but is it cool? No. But, like GW don't care about the resale market to a point, but
not only to the point where it would start to directly affect their their brand.
But they do care about the fact that they would prefer to have provided everyone who wanted a line model because it's cash straight into their pocket, But hey, but yeah,
I'm personally, speaking now, we're talking about the line. I'm of the opinion that I think it could work well in a Heresy setting.
Of course, it can.
I think I think they've absolutely smashed it with that model.
Far more so
than they did with Guilliman, which I was not, and still not a massive fan of that as a model. I find the filigree.
I think it's probably got a different appeal. Guilliman.
Yeah,
I don't think it's the best model they made. The Lion definitely has.
I think the Lion is a fantastic piece of design. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, we've got.
And I think works a treat in the Heresy setting if you wanted an alternative line.
I essentially, there's no real issue in using him, is there?
No.
Which one do you prefer? 30k or 40k line?
I actually prefer the 30k one.
I think I do as well.
Sorry, did I say 30? I meant 40k. I think it's the 40k one I prefer. I got it completely the wrong way around. It's the 40k one I prefer. I know. And I like the 30k one. I find what they've been able to do in plastic, and I'm looking at the robes and things, There's something about the gravitas he's got I think is superior. I just quite like the pose. I'm not a massive fan of the shield. I find the shield, I mean, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's the Emperor's shield. So that I have a bit more of a problem with, if I had to pick something. But I think as overall, the composition and the silhouette of the model, I prefer. I find something about the pose, not of the 30k one, not quite as natural as the plastic one here. And I think there's a few things they've been able to do technically because it's in plastic. And I'm speaking mainly of the robes here that you don't seem to be able to do with resin.
I don't think more roby.
Exactly. You'd think those resin things, they'd have to be thicker and chunkier just to support themselves and demold, etc.
I'm not sure I prefer the robes on the plastic one actually.
I think it adds quite a lot to the model. I find some of the extra ornamentation is where I struggle with it a bit. So a bit on the backpack and a bit on the shield. But I think where they've kept the armor cleaner, I think that works very well. And for the most part, that happens here. The legs, the chest, the shoulders, the arms, I think they're all that cleaner look, which I think is pretty cool. I like the helmeted head as well.
I like the cowled head with the bottom half, I think. But I actually quite like all the heads, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think they all work well.
I like him. I like 40k Lion. He definitely feels 40k Lion. Not to the point where I would be disappointed to see him in 30k.
I think Gilliman feels like 40k Gilliman to Gilliman feels like 42k Gilliman.
Yeah,
I think the Lion is workable either way.
I think you can put him in there, but I think he feels like 40k Lion, particularly when you compare him to 30k Lion. I think there's no doubt that 30k Lion feels very much more part of that. But I think I'd have to lose the shield and do something with that arm.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
But the rest of it would work. It's not an issue. But yeah, he's cool. I suspect we'll see some people using him. I mean, he'll be cheaper for starters, and he'll be plastic, which is a bonus over resin.
It's a lot easier to work with. Yeah, no question.
For sure. Yeah, and then we got the Venator Tank Hunters out, and the Cerberus is out as well. GW did send me one of each, which arrived the day before I left for Australia. So no chance of doing any work on those. So thank you, GW, but that's not going to happen. But yeah, it's all good fun.
Typhon does look cool.
The Typhon does look
Still
cool.
think the Typhon's the boy of those.
Right. Librarian.
Yes.
What do you think of the Librarian? Recent.
I liked the Librarian. I thought he was quite cool. It feels like something that's just been sorely missing for a long time. Yeah. Feels quite a gap in the lineup.
Do you think he's too plain?
I don't. I find the robes a bit of a surprising choice. I'm not sure I love the robes.
Right.
Or cape, or whatever that is over the side. I don't find the plainness, it kind of goes with the armor. The Mark 6 is quite a clean armor anyway, generally. I personally prefer the helmeted head. Yeah, I don't find it too plain, really. I think it's suitable. I think that the plainness is okay here with this Mark. Do we have any other Mark 6 consoles?
Oh, blimey. Yeah, testing me now. I can't think.
We've got the Esoterrorist, which they've done recently.
Yeah.
The Mark 4 consoles are quite plain.
Yeah. Not sure. Let's have a little. Let's try and find unit type. Characters. There's 100 characters. Don't want Primarchs. Want those. It's going to take a lot of searching. There's going to be mostly named characters, isn't it? We haven't had many, have we?
No. So it's unusual to see that. I think he's quite a good basis for.
This terrorist had a bit more going on
It's a
him.
lot more. It's a lot busier, as it kind of feels right.
He definitely looks plainer than any of the other characters that are there. Whether that's a bad thing or not.
Now I think about it, looking at this, yeah, okay, he is a bit more plain, perhaps, but I think it suits the armor. Would have thought there was an opportunity here, and the one that springs to mind is the Master of Signal, who, now I think about it, I think he's in Mark 4 rather than Mark 6, whatever. The Master of Signal is a reference to a Rogue Trader era sculpt. I would have thought there was there's a few classic librarian, and they are in Mark 6, I believe, sculpts from that era that I'm surprised they didn't take that nostalgia route, and instead they've gone for this. I don't mind it, but it doesn't blow me away. It's a perfectly workable console. That's kind of it, really, for me. I personally prefer it to the Aether Terrorist as a model, but it doesn't blow me away.
Yeah. So this is resin, isn't it?
Mm.
That's the only thing for a resin model.
Mm.
It feels plain.
Perhaps not.
Feels like a plastic model.
It's not taking advantage of what resin could do.
Though there is also a decent amount of room there to do stuff if you want to, I suppose. So I'm sure people will. And that
Problem
is part of the reveal we had. One of the.
Who is it?
Yeah, the axe was. Everyone was like, it looks like a rune.
Yeah,
it's the curved bit where the blade joins the body of the axe was one of those. What do you call it? Engines.
Yeah, the look ahead engine or whatever it is. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't mind him.
The axe is very plain for a force axe. It could be a power axe.
Plain. Yeah, the whole chest looks very. There's not a lot going on the front, but it's not necessarily a bad thing.
If that's a £30 resin model,
it does feel a little bit. What am I paying for? Yeah. But hey, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Definitely felt like it needed a librarian.
There'll still be some major reveals to see at Warhammer Fest. Reveal that major reveals. Cool. Wonderful. And then our last bit, which we're not going to talk about a lot because we need to approach it once we've had a look at it, is the Imperialis Militia.
I wondered if you were going to say that because I've started reading it and I'm interested. Yeah. Certainly, it's not an area that I've looked at. I loved that they put the photos in the article.
Yeah, I've spent a lot more time reading people's thoughts on it. Lots of people are asking where Mark Bedford. So he's got the guys with the gas masks.
Yeah, I wondered that.
Guns, asking where he got his heads from. Stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot in this army that could be done. Like back in the day, I always wanted an Imperial army for 40k with as many Rough Riders as I could, and I always lamented the fact that you couldn't give a commissar a horse, and things like that. So the fact that you can just shed loads of horses in this has a desperate appeal.
Particularly with the new Rough Riders as well.
Exactly, or Attilan, the GC the Colt bikes, or people are talking about doing renegade armies with the Necromunda, the Cawdor Walkers. As some people are talking about using the flea things, but I think they're a bit big. There's a lot of scale issue with people wanting to use different models, like the Cargo 8 haulers. Good idea from GW because they could only have sold so many, but to make them available in this to be able to be used, people talking about using venom crawlers as sentinels, which again are too big. but maybe to convert them up.
They're
on
on
100 mil bases, venom crawlers.
Yeah, okay. I'm thinking
to get
more
them
of the
onto
mass,
a sentinel
of the
base
model.
might be,
the base is an issue. Yeah, you're right.
And to get that mass onto that base might be tricky, but I'm sure it can be done with some work. And that's the thing with this army. Like, you've got people who are just going to use the Imperial Guard stuff, the Cadian stuff. Cool.
Which looks awesome. Which looks really good because they got a photo of it in there. And the field guns. I think it could look really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. You can put field guns in some of the transports now. You can put multiple sentinels in transports. You could get an Ogring champion that can use a Power Fist at Initiative 2. A Thunderhammer at Initiative 2. You can just buy 900 dudes as your core army if you want, which is a terrible idea. I have seen someone from GW, from Forge World, saying like all these like millions of list ideas people have been putting up, and it was like, you might want to just like proxy it before you buy it all and try it. I think the one thing they've tried to do is make sure that nothing's too broken combination wise. Unfortunately, I think one of the ways they've done that is with the Allies matrix, or like, by counting them as basically distrusted or whatever it is. I can't remember what it is now, but utilizing the rules from the Allies matrix to make sure that they're not, that you can't use rules from your main army to make them better. That kind of, to stop those interactions which could cause problems. My only issue with that is I was going to do. I'm not necessarily a massive fan of the Allies matrix because there's always allies that go against it. You can always find an instance where actually, we don't mind this unit. We work together.
I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, so I was like, for my event, I was going to be like, ignore the Allies matrix, take whatever allies you want. However, do I then open up a can of worms with these guys, or do I then maintain it only for these guys, or do I work some way of maintaining it? Who knows? I'll have to look into it. But they got some interesting rules in there, particularly the third line unit subtype, where any third line unit tank takes a penetrating hit for every glancing hit. So yes, your Stormlord, I think the Stormlord is 400 points rather than 690 or whatever it is. But every hit is a penetrating hit. Can potentially cause problems. Depending on what you're firing at.
That you could give to the leader personas. Now, what are they called? I thought they were quite cool. That's about the only thing I've read. Yeah, Imperial Warlord. There's Warlord traits, basically.
Yeah.
They are Warlord traits, right? Okay, they are straight up Warlord traits. Those were quite cool, and they could start it. And then there's things that you can do to tailor it. Like you say, I feel this needs a deep dive. It needs a real read through to see, and with some ideas there. That's cool, though, some of those ideas that you're talking about.
Oh, there are myriad ideas. The Void Jumpers, like all models in a military reconnaissance squad, can have jetpacks. Like, ridiculous. Like, you're going to spend so many points on. It's only 20 points per unit, but still.
I heard someone describe the doing with this one of these that lets you take carapace armor and you just take all the new RBTs.
Yep. They'd be pretty tall, but gene crafted. There's again like your Votan if you want to use squats or what have you. You can take. They can ride in Land Raiders if you want. You can have your Feral Warriors for your Catachans. You can have your Zealots, without the worry of 150 frenzy attacks from 20 dudes, ruining everything. I think someone did the maths on one of the big squads. Even with hatred, running into Space Marines only kill like 2 or 3 if they go in with all their attacks because of the way weapon skill works and stuff like that. I think they've reduced how much interaction there can be between the rules to limit how effective they can be. Like endless hordes.
The abhuman muster one was quite a cool one, particularly with the there's the Beastmen coming in the next kill team box set.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which look awesome. Which look really nice.
Unending horde. Every detachment is probably against a 4+ endless horde. You can bring units back. Ogring conscripts. Like there are myriad ways, and I've seen myriad ways. Like you can take Lima Russes, but you can only take them in squadrons if you take the Providence to let you do that. So it looks like that's been in there for a reason, to stop you being able to have squads of Lehman Russes and everything else, which haven't broken it down yet. I haven't looked to see if there are any issues in that respect, but it looks as though the obvious things when people talk about them are not necessarily there. I mean, taking 900 troops and running them forwards. You also look at the leaderships on these dudes. It's pretty crap. Like,
leadership 5, yeah.
Yeah, right. Grenadier squads go up to leadership 7 on the commander. Wow.
Ballistic skill 2, leadership 5, yeah, and the commanders. It means that they're all going. Yeah, you are going to need your discipline masters and stuff.
Yeah, and there's ways of doing that, but you can run into combat and you can lose. Yeah, you might kill 2 dudes, you're going to lose a lot back, and you'll be losing whole squads. So, you have to the one danger is someone takes the army that's no fun to play against, because you do just push stuff forwards, lose a few, run away. But that's, if someone's going to do that, they're an idiot, that kind of thing. But I think if you run 10 legionnaires into a lot of stuff, you'll be all right. With the way weapon skill and stuff works now, you can do some heavy lifting with some basic troops against these guys, particularly with some of the options you've got with chained bayonets and things like that. You don't even need them, to be fair. But what is interesting is how much excitement I've seen, admittedly only in a couple of groups, so it might be located to those kind of players who listen to those podcasts, who are in that kind of meta, as it were, but a lot of excitement to play militia, which might mean that you suddenly get armies which are less susceptible to a 10-man las cannon squad, because they're not taking vehicles. 10-man las cannon squad against some Ogrins, it's going to kill some Ogrins, but it's not going to kill them all, because they're not instantly dying. It's going to have options to shoot your squads to ping one off at a time or what have you, and maybe that changes what people look at bringing. Maybe big templates become worthwhile when there are 50 dudes with a 4+ save, toughness 3, running around, who can't tank all their hits on their sergeant.
It does. It just opens up the variety there.
The variety.
Obviously, mechanic comes down, so the variety goes through the roof with these. I should know this, but I don't. I can't bring it to mind. If militia is your third line infantry, is Solar Auxilia second line and Astartes are the first line?
Or is there
Imperial Army? No.
There is. So the Imperial Army and the militia are different things.
They are, and Solar Auxilia, I think, is different elite. Again.
Yeah,
they're an elite of the Imperial Army. Okay, so Solar Auxilia is elite first line. I
don't know if that's classed as first, second, and third line. I'm not. At the moment, I can't think.
Fair enough. I wasn't sure if that was widely known, and that was just something that was a gap in my memory of this thing.
Yeah, so
I just sort of wonder how that rolls.
Here we go. So detachments with the kinfolk, helots, abhuman muster, or Ogrin conscripts provinces must be classed as distrusted allies by all Space Marine detachments and Solar Auxiliary detachments, regardless of faction. So that's obviously a limiting thing to stop issues occurring. Detachments and Legio Custodes must class all detachments selected for the Imperial Militia Army list as by the Emperor's command, because they just get in the way. But lots of stuff to look into, and we'll have to do it in full another time because it's getting late.
Yes, to go through and assess every one of those units, that's going to turn that into a bigger thing. That's a focus in and of itself, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll have to look at how we go about doing that as well. Cool. We'll take another quick break there, and then we'll be right back. So we're going to leave the show there again. We are desperately trying to catch up. We've been saying that for a few episodes. We've
got a few things. So it's quite nice having a few where we started to back things up. Where we've got stuff we want to do.
We've got stuff that's been backed up for months. And we might even have to do an extra episode at some point to finish these in, but it's trying to find time at the moment is really difficult. But we will try and get there. We're also trying to, as I say, restructure the show and things like that as well. So we need to come up with names for segments, don't we, really, beyond intro, news, because it's dull. So any suggestions for that are good, and we'll try and think up some, but brains aren't working at the moment.
I'm certainly keen. I mean, you've said a few things we want to do. We still got to talk Warhawk. I want to talk some hobby things. I want to talk paint.
Yeah. Howard's got some ideas. I've got ideas. We've got stuff we promised you. It's coming at some point.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention, while I was in Sydney, we have a mutual friend who has moved out to North Sydney, Scottish Stu, who I got hold of, and he happened to be playing an event while I was out there. So we made a quick trip over the Sydney Harbour Bridge from the centre of Sydney and a little bit of a walk to a hotel building and found an event run by one of the most prominent people in Heresy, I suppose, Mr. Tom Gould of the Mournival group, who've been influential in creating whole reams of units and missions and adjustments and you name it, that have been picked up and used all around the world. Who was running a little slow grow Heresy event in this really small room. It was quite sunny. It was quite pleasant, actually. It's quite a nice little thing with some fairly new guys.
Really nice.
Yeah, some fairly new guys playing there as well, I think. It was quite interesting. Tom, I walked in and said hello, and Tom was like, "The Greg Dan." I wore my T-shirt as well. It was a bit stupid. So yeah, it was really good to meet him. Good to meet up with Stu as well. I haven't seen him in a while.
He has been quite busy, as have you.
Yeah, don't know if any of the other guys had ever heard the show, but didn't really put it about too much down there. But just got to watch some people playing some Heresy with some interesting lists, seeing relatively small points. It's amazing what units of Iron Warriors Terminators can do. Yeah, certainly is. But yeah, no, it looked to be a really cool, fun event and fair play. Anyone running slow grow leagues and stuff like things like that, doing the Lord's work, really helping people get into the Heresy and stuff. Really, really cool to see, and that's 3 different continents I've attended Heresy events in.
And also, no small thing. You can tick off, as you said at the time, you've taken James to his first event.
James's first event, yeah. Walking around being a menace. Emma took him for a walk in the end to get away from it all. But
he wasn't just claiming his own Space Marines.
No, just the tables are just too high for him to see what's going on, really, which is probably for the best. But he will probably be in Cardiff when we're there, so
nice.
That's all fun. Yeah, so I just wanted to shout out that for if you're in Sydney and Tom's been doing this a long while, as well as the other people he works with, I'm sure. But it was really cool to see. The other thing I wanted to get back to was we got an email about the last show from Eamon Duffy. And
yes. Love
Indeed.
feedback. Love feedback. Anyone
not always
who wants
great
to
about
write in
talking
anything.
about it on the show,
No,
but
apparently it
wanted
takes
to
us
see
some time to talk about it, but love receiving it.
So
And
thanks,
we will
Eamon.
talk on it. Yeah.
Talking about our 2023 plans and stuff, and him talking about his. I mean, this is just classic. Ultimate goal is to do a Battlefleet Heresy into an Aeronautica Heresy into a Heresy Link campaign. I mean, if you played Heresy and haven't mentioned that once in your Heresy career, I'd be amazed. Looking at starting Salamanders, which is an interesting choice at the moment. Not a huge amount of people leaning towards the Salamanders. But what I like is mixing in 1,000 Suns combat control to get an opposing force. So looking
nice.
at the Fury of Magnus kind of
Yeah.
instance. So Vulcan found a model to use as Barrack. Just needs to make the other ones, get her an Araman and a few others. I think that's a really nice little plan forwards.
Yeah, that's going to be really. That's going to be. I mean, I was excited at the early plan. I mean, the linked game at different scales is just the dream, and I think there's more resources for that now than there ever have been.
Yeah, definitely.
So that is really tempting. Not least of which, not only have you got rules that people are doing out there for Battlefleet Heresy, and Aeronautica's already is very much developed that they're in an official capacity. But there's also the models are out there, particularly if you start branching into the 3D printed world and what people are doing. So there's some very cool things you can do with that, and it is a super cool way now. You've got things with the Zone Mortalis coming as well. You can do boarding actions and cool stuff like that. The ideas come.
Yeah, potentially I say whether you get the old rules or and the community updates, or whether we do in whatever period of time we get Epic, and you could do a grand scale.
Oh yeah.
Leading to a small scale as well. There's no bets are off really.
I'm surprised. I was reflecting on this the other day. I'm surprised that I'm not more excited about new 40K than I am. I've been a fan of 40K for many years. It hasn't lit a fire under me in the same way that new Heresy did.
Right.
New Epic, on the other hand, that's going to be a problem if that turns out to be a thing.
It's not a problem.
That's going to turn out to be a serious weakness that I'm going to have, given that that's how I got into wargaming in the first place. The nostalgia hit for that is strong in me.
Yeah, Epic, and indeed, I started getting a hankling to look up Warmaster 3D print things.
Oh mate,
and I only played Warmaster a couple of times.
It lends itself to that thing, and there's quite the scene.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? At the end of the day, you've only got so much time. I think this is why 40K doesn't have that same grip, is because there are so many games out there. Although 10th, I think 40K for me, just by nature of the way my friends play the game, will always be the casual game for me, because I'm not prepared to go tournament heavy. I will say I want a casual game of 40K. Sorry. There's a few guys at our club who want to play narrative. Okay, I'll get involved with a narrative for a period of time, but it will only be narrative. I can't be bothered to chase the dragon of tournament play. It's not going to happen.
There was a group of us who were about to jump in on the Crusade thing that came along with 9th. And then the pandemic came in and killed the regular attendance again at the Games Club.
I still want to do it.
Which is a blow.
I'm sure there'll be a Crusade element to 10th. I was planning, my best mate and I were planning to do Space Wars, to do Black Legion coming out of the Eye of Terror and Space Wars stopping him, and he basically never got on with his Black Legion army. So we'll find another way to do it, I'm sure, because I don't mind playing 40K. And if unfortunately some club nights at our club, the only offers are 40K. For us, it's been Kill Team, and we'll go a little bit into that in a minute. Anyway,
so, the aim of a linked game across scales, fantastic. Oh dear, I've now been horribly influenced by just this conversation.
Again, let's talk. We've got a few hours drive up to Manchester. And, So, some thoughts on keeping motivated, reporting progress, like you and I talked about, Howard. He's saying, I once set the goal of a model a day, 365 models a year. He thought it was great, and so started graphing his models painted over time and then using the previous year's line as a target to beat.
Oh, nice.
I am such a slow painter that this doesn't appeal to me anymore, because I feel like I'm failing.
I'd be so far away from that.
Yeah,
It just
exactly.
wouldn't
Some
be
people can
practical.
do that in 2 months. I can't.
I think
never
that's
will
quite
be able to.
appealing if your goal is to paint with a view to playing more games. I.e.,
Yeah.
I need to maximize the painting
Well,
to the
yeah,
view to
I mean,
getting things on there versus the other approach, which is actually I want to slow my painting down
oh yeah.
because I want to spend time and improve the painting itself. I'm painting almost not quite painting for presentation, but it's that sort of thing.
Well,
There's a
yeah.
judgment there about what you're trying to achieve, or what you
Yeah,
want to
you're
achieve.
absolutely right. If you want to improve your painting, you're not aiming to paint more models. If you're just looking to clear your backlog,
Yeah.
your paint level could stay the same, but you can look to what can you do to paint more models more quickly, whether it's making sure it's half an hour a day or whether it's okay, I can batch paint or I found a new method of doing this to speed that up. That's fine. The important thing, and I think this Eamon's onto it here because he's like using the previous year's lines as targets to beat. It's not to beat yourself up if you don't do it, and I would a little bit. Is to go,
Yeah.
oh, I've only painted 150 models. How terrible is that? Like that, because that way leads to you not doing a lot. But if you can go, oh, cool, painted 150 last year. Let's see if I can beat that this year. Like with sports, all the top sports people, like the result is not what. Like once you get to a level, you're not chasing the result. You're chasing the process because the process will bring results. And there's always the problem with results is there's always something that can get in the way of results. You can get to 360 models and then fall seriously ill for a month and fail. And because you haven't hit 365, you feel terrible. Where realistically, you would have smashed it because the process is right. So it works at top level sport. It works at painting models. It works at whatever. Getting that process right is important. The other option, write some lore for a squad and then paint them up. Commit to one squad a month. Yeah, particularly if you're lore focused, that can help as a driving factor. For
I
sure.
find I've happened to go back. I was looking for some more reading material for my commute, and I picked up the Vincular Insurgency, the more recent Gaunt's book. Was reading that, and that reminded me of the power of the story behind sort of units, even indeed a whole army, but particularly characters in a squad and otherwise. It's amazingly inspirational stuff like that. You're like, oh my god, I have to work on this. So I think that actually it depends who you are and what you're trying to achieve, but or what resonates with you. That resonates quite strongly with me, and I could see that being a thing. It would also be an interesting variant on the way I always do it because I think it's easy to get swayed by what you're seeing online and seeing people put together army lists because it's an effective synergized army list or otherwise, or it's something that plays in a particular way, and you think, yeah, okay, right, I'll do that. Whereas that would almost encourage me to go a slightly different route and do it in a lore-based way, which I think is quite a cool idea.
Yeah, no, that's definitely can be a good thing on that one. I like that idea. As I say, it might lead you to painting units you wouldn't necessarily think of, which is good. It's got a couple of other things we'll talk about maybe down the line, but there's a couple of question/discussion topics here we'll cover very quickly. So Alpha Legion symbol is a three-headed Hydra and they have two Primarchs. Started wondering if there's a third. Alternatively, in mythology, cut off the head of the Hydra more we go. What if the 20th Primarch died and came back as Alpharis/Omegon, and now with Alpharis dying, are there two more? The idea of three Primarchs for Alpha Legion is not new. Some people hold to that idea.
Interesting.
If we go back to the only time we've ever seen the Alpha Legion Primarchs pre fully grown was a glimpse from Argel Tal, whilst in a demon-powered vision of the past, which was not entirely 100% accurate, but where he looked in upon the incubator numbered 20, and there were two forms in it. I think the Alpha and the Omega is the stronger link than the three-headed Hydra.
Symbolically, though, I wonder if the third head is the Legion. That could be another way of interpreting it, because equally I think of the way the Alpha Legion is represented when other Primarchs meet Alpharis. And I was reminded of I can't remember which short story it was the other day, but I reread where Dawn I think it's a flashback scene, and Dawn appears and he's going into a room. He's chatting with one of his castellans, and he walks in, and they're introduced, and Alpharis is in there. There are three people in the room. Dawn. Is it Praetorian of Dawn?
So it's a flashback of Praetorian of Dawn,
right?
Because
there's three in the room, and one of them's, and it's two of his lieutenants, obviously. But is it? And you think there's a number of times where they've introduced.
But he identifies Alpharis. Is that
he does?
because this is what I'm saying. It's Praetorian of Dawn because it sets up. Because this is what a lot of people missed once. Spoilers. Once he kills Alpharis, people are like, "Oh, it wasn't the real Alpharis," and I'm like, he knew in that room previously which one Alpharis was. He knows he's killed a Primarch.
Yes.
Later on.
Yes, and that's valid and a completely useful part of that book. But I like the idea of it just represents the fact that the two halves of the one Primarch can also interchange with legionaries.
I think that's
and I think that's quite cool.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at that. Absolutely. Now Alpharis is dead. Could he in some way come back? This is 40k. Yes, it's space fantasy. There are ways, like, just because you've seen the head cut off doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be dead all the time. We've seen that more than once. So, who knows? And then the second one was Heresy Kill Team. Would you like to see this either as a standalone game or as an era-locked teams in the main game? I think it would be a really cool way to explore sub-factions and unique units, just like being done for 40k. I would like to play Heresy Kill Team.
Big time. Yep.
I think it would be era-locked to the main game because the main game's fine. I wonder how they'd do it. You could do it. I think you could do it because the beauty of Kill Team is their individual characters. So you could have 5 or 6 members of any legion. Of course, I played Kill Team at the club Tuesday night, and I was using Grey Knights, which are an outdated. They've been really left behind, and I was playing just a normal Nurgle Plague Marine Kill Team, and every one of their guys was way better than mine because of either a rule or a piece of equipment. And it's like, actually, that would be easy to do across legions.
I was reading the other day about the sort of state of Kill Team, and basically anything that comes out of what was known as the Compendium is that much lesser in some ways compared to things that have come around since.
Oh, so much. Like, I made one mistake, but I played the rest of the game quite well, and I got hammered.
Right, okay.
I got hammered.
This was what was suggested. They said, I mean, at the bottom of that pile apparently is Necrons, which are I wouldn't be surprised. Apparently they are just horrific. But anything that's got like a named thing. But whereas I feel like the precedent set, interestingly, also referenced in this email, is the Aeronautica one, which Aeronautica is a 40k era game, but they release an expansion of it that is specific to Heresy. I could easily see that being a product of Kill Team, and a really popular one.
With Kill Team, you can even actually fan make because you're doing Heresy Kill Team. It doesn't have to be as detailed as proper Kill Team. You could pull back those layers a little bit and not have it everyone so different. you could have subtle differences across the individuals.
You wouldn't need you wouldn't need Legion specific specialists, which would be one way of tackling it. And
no, what you could allow is,
teams, but you could have traits.
Well, not even just that. For flavour, you could have like lightning claws available to Space Wolves, Night Lords, and one other, right? And then that's your one of your combat dudes gets lightning claws, and then for Iron Hands, Iron Warriors, whoever, they get a Thunderhammer dude, right? Whereas others don't. Like, it could be really as simple as that to create those levels plus a trait on top would make a decent kill team. And access to different missions as well. So yeah, kill team could work.
Kill team Heresy, I think, would be superb. I'm really surprised. We keep my friends and I discussed this, who were all into the hobby as well. We're really surprised that the thing we really wanted to play was a kill team conversion of Gore Chosen, or Combat Arena, as the 40k version of it was. I still think like Fighting Pit or something like that. Just doing a Fighting Pit game in the Conqueror, which apparently loads of different members of the Legions have done. You just think that would be awesome. I would really enjoy playing that, particularly at a weekender, for example, or a Games Workshop weekend event. You could just have that to play in a bar in the evening. That would be great because of the speed at which the game is. Underworlds is a surprising thing as well. Underworlds has been kept entirely. You get these amazing little sets of miniatures, which I think are quite responsible for drawing quite a lot of people into the miniatures hobby, because you can just buy this standalone set, which you can then play this particular game with. I think that game had a certain thing when you were chasing various metas, then you've got to buy all the sets to have all the cards, and they said, okay, that's a different doing. I think this Rivals deck thing they've done is quite a good thing to stop that. But I'm amazed there isn't another version of that, a 40k or even a Heresy version of that. Heresy probably wouldn't lend itself as well to that. I think it lends itself better to the kill team conversion. I think kill team it lends itself really quite well to these little sort of spec ops Legion units. I could see that being an absolute thing. There's so many stories of that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, potentially. And at the end of the day, if a community made their own thing, I don't think it would be too hard compared to some of the stuff that gets put out there. It wouldn't be too difficult to make that balance.
I feel like that's been done. I feel like that's out there, but I won't search for it live.
No. Well, yeah, we need to bring this to an end anyway. So we'll leave it there.
Good talking to you as always. We've covered a lot of things. We've got even more to cover, but we'll do that again soon.
Recording very soon. There is a hope, a desire. I don't know if I mentioned this on the show before. We just talked about it. A desire to do a road trip recording.
I'm in for it.
We're going to have to see how we can make that work well enough with noise of the car and the road and everything else, and how tired we are and everything else as well. But obviously, we'll be talking about Fest next episode and whatever else we can fit in. And we'll have to see how that goes. As I say, we're going to try and get back on track. We're going to have these segments, and we're going to hopefully do a few other bits as well. If you see us at Fest, we'll at least one day try and make sure we've got our t-shirts on. Then come and say hello, please. That's fine. There's a Heresy event. I'm sure we'll go and walk around that. There's some podcasters doing that, so we're going to talk to the Edge of Empire guys. Playing in that. It's good. And Fest should be good fun. We're there Saturday and Sunday. We're not doing the Monday.
3-day weekend is a bit of a
plus
push with the young family.
Unless you're playing an event, Sunday's just Golden Demon, and fighting to look into glass shelves gets a bit dull after a while if you're not involved in the competition. So. But there's lots of interesting people going, which is cool. So awesome. We'll leave that there.
Catch up with you soon, buddy.
Cheers, Howard. thank you for listening to another episode of the Imperial Truth. If you would like to support the show, of course, we have our link through to Element that pays us a little kickback if you order anything. Thank you for anyone who does that. We have a Patreon. If you believe this show is worth donating or tipping us $1 at least of your money, then thank you for anyone who does that on this always free to air show. You can actually get merchandise as well. There is a link in the show notes to Teespring where we have t-shirts and things like that as well, which I don't always shout about, but Howard reminded me about that one. If you want to contact the show, Greg at theimperialtruth.com. Fire us over an email and send us your suggestions, what you like, what you don't like, what you think we got wrong, what have you. Let us know. That would be great. I'm not going to bang on now. We'll be back fairly quickly, hopefully, with our Fest show and talking about other things, I'm sure. And as I said, with Howard, all these things, we're just trying to get on some kind of track, a new track as well, moving forwards. So please bear with us on that one. We will get there. Looking more and more likely, I think, that we'll try and squeeze an extra show in somewhere as well, because why not, frankly. So we will try and look at doing that for you. But yeah, you can contact Greg at theimperialtruth.com, or you can get us on our various socials. Imperial_Truth on Twitter, at Child of Fang on Twitter, and on Instagram as well. Let us know anything you want, basically. Lots of stuff going on. If you've got questions as well, I'm sure we'll do a Q&A episode at some point. There's lots of different stuff happening within the game and within the community as well. So, yeah. We're going to leave that there. We did a sort of outro. This is a sort of a second outro, so we're going to leave that there. So, again, one last thing, though. If you see us at Fest, you want to come and chat and say hi, please do. We'll pop a photo on the social medias, I'm sure, on the way up or what have you once we get there. So, yeah. But until next time, you have been listening to The Imperial Truth.